Hey, real quick before we get into this video, if you have a 5-minute, maybe 10-minute documentary that you want me to watch and give feedback about, go over to my Instagram and send me a link in a direct message. I'm gonna be doing this for my next video. I'm gonna review some of your guys' films and give feedback in that video. I'm only gonna be choosing about 3, maybe 4 of them, but go hit me up, send me that link. I wanna see your guys' documentaries. What is going on, guys? Coming to you live from self-isolation here by myself in my office. I just want to let you know today's video is sponsored by Window Light. It's free and it's great. Right now you can use the coupon code MB100 to get your free window light. All you need is a window. But anyways, I recently bought 2 cameras, which was, in retrospect, great timing. I haven't really been able to use them. We picked up 2 of these guys, the FX9, but I've been seeing people pop their FX9 footage into Sony Catalyst software and doing some amazing things. So I really wanted to give this a try because I haven't been able to use the camera much. So I just quickly shot some footage here and I purposely kind of pushed the limits of the camera. I let it clip, I held it really shaky, I put it all on auto, everything. I wanted to see what this camera could do if you're really screwed up. And watch this. This is mind-blowing how stable it can make this footage look. It looks like it is on a gimbal. I was just hand holding this, not doing anything special, and it was practically able to take every jitter and bump out. This is how good the software is. Here's the shot without the stabilization. Here's the shot with the stabilization, and here's the shot with Adobe Premiere's Warp Stabilizer. It's night and day. It doesn't do that crazy, wavy, wobbly thing. I'm really impressed. Now, the more I looked at the footage, the more I realized it will never truly replace a gimbal. I don't think anything actually ever could be, unless you have a way of getting rid of motion blur at the level of the sensor. But it is very impressive. It really helps those shots where you're just kind of creeping in towards something when you would want to be on a gimbal. But this is able to stabilize it when you're not doing crazy motion blur. It's really helpful. I think it's much better than internal IBIS on a lot of cameras. I think it's much better than the native stabilization on some lenses. This is really impressive, and it's probably a smart move on Sony because it's gonna make me buy a bunch of E-mount lenses because I want this now for every lens that I have. Because in those quick run and gun situations where you wanna just get a quick shot of someone or you have a car passing by, you have the option now to keep it in that shaky handheld feel or get something that feels like a beautiful, pristine gimbal move. Wowie, wow. Sony, you really impressed me on this one. Now what this software is actually doing is it's taking the metadata off the E-mount Sony lenses and is able to stabilize it. I'm not quite sure how it's doing all of that. I know that it has the characteristics of each Sony lens built into the software, so it knows exactly how to stabilize it. Now, the bummer for me is I have a lot of EF mount lenses. I have the Sigma adapter here to an EF 24 mil. Now that's because I shoot a lot of Canon. I've started on Canon. I still shoot a lot of Canon for a lot of the commercials I'm on with the C500. So for me, it means that I'm gonna have to invest into E-mount lenses, and it looks like we're actually gonna buy a bunch because if we can get stabilization this good without any sort of stabilizer, I'm in. I'm down for it. Hey, so I was actually lying there and I didn't know that I was. I, by accident, discovered you can actually use EF lenses on the FX9 to get stabilization. I was looking at a shot and I was thinking, hey, that looks like my Sigma lens. And when I looked at the metadata, sure enough, it was my Sigma 24. I had been using a Sigma EF lens adapted to E-mount with the Sigma adapter on my FX9. So this is great news. Now I've discovered that you can use EF lenses as long as they've been adapted. I don't know if it's just a Sigma adapter. It might work on the speed booster. I haven't tried that yet. Now the unfortunate thing is you cannot use A7 III footage for the stabilization. I think that's because it has a floating sensor. Also too, none of my FS7 footage seemed to work for stabilization. But EF mount lenses work for this. This is exciting. This is a whole new world. A whole new. Now, one really cool thing too with the Sony Catalyst software is how much I could recover the highlights. You look at this footage, it looks so blown out, but I could come in here and drop the ISO almost like I was working with a RAW file. It's incredible the amount of information and data you're able to pull from these FX9 clips, and it was able to recover all the information in the sky. It never looked like it was overblown or anything. And I gotta say too, very impressed with the FX9's autofocus. Here it is, really strong backlight, which a lot of cameras fall apart when you're trying to focus on someone's face in strong backlight, and this held up really, really well. Now, speaking of Sony RAW, I was pretty harsh on the FX9 in my last video, which I was talking about why I bought it and what I like about it and what I don't like about it. And I mentioned about the internal RAW recording. I'm aware now, because a lot of you mentioned to me, and I've done a lot of research about it now, that Red Camera owns the patents for native RAW internal recording in a camera. So Sony has tried it, they've lost some lawsuits. What I was kind of saying in that video is I was just hoping that Sony could get around it, like Canon with their RAW Light, or like Blackmagic with their B RAW, which they do a deBayer level thing to get around that. It just kind of sucks that Red has that patent, that Sony can't get around that. But it would be interesting to see if Sony can do a workaround like a couple other camera companies have been to try to get something similar to RAW. But to be honest, working with these FX files in the Catalyst software has shown me that, man, you still have a lot of information there. You're able to do a lot more. And I'm starting to believe a bit more in that 15 stops of latitude that Sony claims when you're able to drop down those highlights so well. Very impressed. Now, a lot of you too have been asking what the heck I had on the front of my camera in the last video, and that is this. It's the Polar Pro Basecamp VND. This matte box is so light. Now, I'm not being paid to say this. I'm just telling you how much I actually love this thing. It is a variable ND, and you're wondering why would I need a variable ND on the front of a Sony that already has a built-in variable ND? Well, here's the thing, is when you shoot wide open a lot like I do, the variable ND on this still can't get you all the way down to the point where your files aren't clipping in broad daylight when there's lots of sun. So the variable ND here helps you get that last little bit that you need. And you can also attach it to your mirrorless cameras. It's awesome. What is this? Well, this is a French flag. It saved me recently on a short film I was shooting on when I had this matte box on my camera because it was pouring rain. So I just opened up the French flag here, put a plastic bag on my camera, and we never got the camera wet. It protected the lens. It saved the day because it was pouring. This was the last shots of the film. This is the film we're doing for my church for Easter, which we'll be releasing on Easter Sunday. So look for that. I can put a description below and I'll put a link to the trailer. But I've been really impressed with this matte box. It's so light. You can attach it to a mirrorless camera and it doesn't add much weight. That's not sponsored. I just love my matte box, and so I wanted to let you guys know about it. So in conclusion, no, this software does not replace gimbals, but it's coming pretty close for certain situations. Like I mentioned, those small little handheld movements around something small where you're not doing a huge amount of walking. It's very impressive because whenever you walk, every time you take that step, you shake the sensor. So it's difficult to get rid of that. So if you're good at soft walking, ninja walking, then yeah, this could replace some of those times that you would have built up a gimbal and tried to get a shot. Now, again, like I said, it will never replace what you can and can't do with a gimbal. I'm very excited to use it on projects where I already know I'm going all handheld, but I sometimes want to stabilize a small, quick shot. Well done, Sony. It makes me very happy about my FX9 purchase. Now, Canon chose to go the internal route with their C500 with that stabilization happening inside the camera, which kind of bakes it into the image. So if you don't like what you're getting, you're stuck with it unless you go to Adobe Premiere for warp stabilization, which, as you know, sometimes warp stabilization can leave a little bit to be desired. But I hope you guys are enjoying this self-isolation. I mean, this is a lot of free time that a lot of us haven't got otherwise. I know it's a stressful time. A lot of us don't have work right now, and that is stressful, but there's always a silver lining to every dark storm. So right now, you might have more time than you ever have had before, so use it to learn something new. Use it to reconnect to someone you haven't spoke to for a while. This is an opportunity that we won't have again. This time where we're by ourselves, where we get to be alone with our thoughts, which for some of us is very stressful, but it's also a chance to catch up on some things that we've been wanting to do for years. Anyways, guys, I hope you're doing well. I'll see you on the next one. Comment down below if there's anything you want me to cover. I do have a little bit more time on my hands these days, but I'll see you on the next one.